Welcome to Kiki's Talk Buffet. Let's talk it out.
Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever been in a situation, where someone just offers a solution before they even really get what you're saying?
Oh, definitely. Like a friend who jumps straight into advice mode when you just needed to vent.
Exactly. Or, maybe we've even done it ourselves. It's that human thing wanting to fix things maybe too quickly.
It is interesting, isn't it, how often we kind of leap to our own conclusions, offer solutions based on, well, our world.
Yeah.
And these little moments, they actually point to a really big idea in communication we're digging into today. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Sounds simple enough on the surface.
It does, but actually doing it. That can be surprisingly tough, but also incredibly rewarding when you get it right.
Think of this whole thing as maybe a shortcut to connecting better with people. Whether it's at work, tricky stuff there, or personal relationships.
Or just getting through everyday conversations more smoothly.
Right. And the material we've looked at, it's really thought-provoking. It doesn't just talk about why understanding is good, but the actual how do we do this day to day.
Which brings us to what we're trying to do here in this deep dive. Our mission, really, is to pull out the most important bits from all this.
The practical stuff.
The actionable steps, yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff that can help you, the listener, become, well, a better communicator. Someone who really hears people, and because of that, gets heard too.
Okay, so let's go back to those first examples. The friend with the instant advice, what's really happening there?
Well, it's like you said, it's prescribing before diagnosing, isn't it?
Yeah, no diagnosis.
They haven't really figured out the ailment, but they're already handing out the remedy. It's this reflex we seem to have.
Often with good intentions, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Usually well-intentioned.
Yeah.
But just missing the mark because we haven't paused to truly grasp the other person's reality.
This kind of sounds like what the material calls autocratic communication.
Pretty much. That style where, one person kind of dominates, doesn't really make space to understand the others involved. We rush to judge.
Filter everything through our own stuff.
Exactly. Our experiences, our assumptions.
Yeah.
And we end up just dealing with surface symptoms, not the actual root cause.
And that brings up a really key point, I think. The huge difference between just hearing words and actually understanding someone.
It's wild. When you think about it, we get years of training in reading, writing, speaking.
All the outputs.
Right. But listening,
Yeah.
real listening, often zero formal training. Yet it's probably the most critical communication skill we have.
Mm.
And, real influence, genuine influence, it's not about slick techniques. It's rooted in understanding the other person.
Okay.
But even before that, it comes down to character, your trustworthiness. If someone thinks you're trying to manipulate them, even subtly,
The techniques won't work?
they'll backfire big time. People just won't feel safe opening up. It closes doors.
So the material talks about empathic listening. What exactly is that?
It's listening with the genuine goal of understanding the other person, not just waiting for a gap so you can jump in with your reply.
Which is what most of us do, right? Myself included sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Most people listen autobiographically. That's the term used. Everything gets filtered through our life, our story.
Like when someone says, oh, I know exactly how you feel, and then tells a story about themselves that's kind of unrelated.
Precisely. Feels like understanding, maybe, but it actually shifts the focus right back onto you and can make the other person feel, well, like their experience wasn't really heard or validated.
Yeah, I can see that. There was that anecdote, too, about the father.
Oh, the one who couldn't understand his son because the son wouldn't listen to him.
Yeah. It perfectly showed that flawed perspective, not realizing he wasn't listening first.
Right. And the material breaks down listening into, 5 levels.
Okay, what are they?
Well, you start at the bottom with ignoring, basically not listening at all. Then pretending to listen, the nods and uh-huhs, but your mind's elsewhere.
Been guilty of that one.
Haven't we all? Then there's selective listening, only picking out parts that interest you. Then attentive listening, where you're paying attention to the words being said.
Which sounds pretty good.
It's better, definitely. But the highest level, the goal, is empathic listening.
And that's different from just active listening. I've heard that term.
Yeah, there's a subtle but really important difference. Active or responsive listening can still be kind of self-focused. You might be reflecting words back, but the underlying motive might still be to control the conversation or get your point across.
Okay.
Empathic listening is purely about understanding the other person's frame of reference, their thoughts, their feelings, their world.
And empathy itself, that's different from sympathy, right? The material makes that point.
Hugely important distinction. Empathy is about understanding intellectually and emotionally where they're coming from. Sympathy often brings in agreement, judgment. You feel sorry for them.
Which can sometimes create dependency, maybe?
Exactly. Empathic listening isn't about agreeing or disagreeing. It's just about deeply getting their perspective.
And it's not just words. The material had that breakdown.
Oh yeah, the communication percentages. Only about 10% is the actual words.
Just 10.
Roughly 30% is the tone of voice, how things are said, and the biggest chunk, like 60%, is body language.
Wow. So empathic listening means using more than just our ears.
Absolutely. It's ears, eyes, and heart, as they put it.
Hmm.
You're observing, sensing the nonverbal cues, tuning into the emotions.
And the upside of doing this.
Well, you get incredibly accurate information. You stop guessing, stop making assumptions based on your own stuff. You see their world more clearly.
Makes sense.
And it ties right into that idea of the emotional bank account.
Ah, right. Deposits and withdrawals.
Every time you genuinely make an effort to understand someone, show you get it, that's a big deposit.
And when you dismiss them or just talk over them.
That's a withdrawal. Consistent empathic listening builds up a really strong reserve of trust and goodwill.
Okay, so this leads into another really interesting idea, the metaphor of psychological air.
Yeah, I love that one. The idea that just like we need oxygen to breathe physically, we have this deep psychological need
To be understood.
to be understood,
Yeah.
and affirmed, recognized, appreciated. It's fundamental.
And empathic listening provides that.
That's the argument.
Yeah.
It directly gives people that psychological air they crave. And once that basic need is met,
Then you can actually talk about solutions or influencing.
exactly, you've created the right atmosphere. People become way more receptive when they feel truly heard.
There was that story from the seminar, the real estate deal.
Oh, the Chicago one? Yeah, classic example. Guy's about to lose a huge deal, 6 months of work down the drain. The other side is just dragging their feet.
Right, and instead of pushing harder with his own points,
He switched gears completely. He just said, essentially, help me understand why you're hesitant. What are your concerns? And he really listened.
focusing on their perspective.
Totally. Trying to see the deal through their eyes. Making that empathic deposit.
And the result was?
Almost instant. Midway through him just reflecting their concerns back, showing he got it, the other guy apparently just stopped him and said, okay, let's do the deal.
Wow. Just like that.
It shows how often the human element, feeling understood,
Hmm.
is way more important than just the technical details or the logic of the argument.
So, if it's that powerful, why don't we do it all the time? It sounds like diagnosing before prescribing takes more effort, maybe?
It definitely does in the short run.
Yeah.
It feels quicker, easier maybe, to just offer our standard advice or solution.
But the long-term payoff.
Is huge. You get better collaboration, more creative solutions because you actually understand the context.
Yeah.
And you build that strong emotional bank account, which is just crucial for any interdependent situation.
But there's a risk involved too, right? In really listening like that.
There is. The material points out that true empathic listening requires you to be open. Open to being influenced yourself.
Ah, that takes some security.
It really does. You have to be secure enough in yourself to genuinely consider another person's perspective, even if it challenges your own. It's a paradox, kind of.
How so?
To influence someone effectively, you first have to be influenced by them in the sense of truly understanding where they're coming from.
And that connects back to the earlier stuff about character, integrity, being proactive. Those give you the inner strength for that vulnerability.
Exactly. Those foundational habits provide the core security needed to open yourself up to understanding others.
And this whole diagnose first, then prescribe idea, it's not just relationships, is it? It seems like a universal principle.
Oh, totally. Think about true professionals in any field. A good optometrist doesn't just hand you glasses, right? They do a thorough exam first.
Right. Or a doctor asks a ton of questions before suggesting treatment.
Precisely. You trust the prescription because you trust the diagnosis.
The material had that funny but scary example of the doctor almost prescribing for a baby without knowing the age.
Yeah. Shows the danger of skipping that diagnosis step. But it applies everywhere. Salespeople understanding needs before pitching products.
Lawyers analyzing a case deeply before deciding strategy.
Product designers doing market research. Engineers stress testing designs. Teachers figuring out what students already know.
It's everywhere.
It is. But the point is made that while it's universal, it's perhaps most powerful and most often overlooked in our interpersonal relationships.
That's where the lack of diagnosis really hurts.
Yeah. Taking the time to truly understand the problem in a relationship, which is usually some form of misunderstanding, is key to finding solutions that actually work.
Okay, so let's dig into why it's sometimes hard to understand people. The concept of autobiographical responses.
Right. Our tendency to react based on our own life story, our own map of the world, not theirs,
We just filter everything through ourselves.
pretty much. And the material outlines 4 common ways we do this.
What are they?
First is evaluating, immediately agreeing or disagreeing, judging their statement as right or wrong based on our view. Second is probing, asking questions. But from our own frame of reference, digging into things based on our values, not necessarily theirs. Third is advising, giving counsel, offering solutions based on our own experience. Here's what you should do.
The classic fix-it response.
Exactly. And fourth is interpreting, trying to figure out their motives, explaining their behavior based on our own psychological theories or experiences. You probably feel that way because...
And these. They tend to shut down communication.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in close relationships like with kids. If a child expects judgment or instant advice, they clam up. They stop sharing the real stuff.
It's often unintentional, though, right? We don't mean to shut them down.
Usually not. These responses are often deeply ingrained, almost automatic. The material uses that detailed dialogue, I think it was a father and son,
Yeah, that was powerful.
to show how each of these responses plays out. The father means well, but he's evaluating, probing, advising, interpreting. It just completely misses what the son is trying to express.
You could feel the son getting more and more frustrated and withdrawn. He just wanted someone to get it.
Exactly. The dad's responses, however well-intentioned, just weren't providing that psychological air.
So how do we actually do empathic listening? What are the steps?
Okay, the material breaks it down into 4 stages, kind of like building blocks. Stage 1 is the simplest. Mimic content.
Just repeat their words.
Basically, yeah. It shows you're paying attention, at least on a surface level.
Oh,
So you're saying school is frustrating.
okay. Seems basic.
It is, but it's a start. Stage 2 is rephrase content. Put their meaning into your own words.
So more than just parroting.
Right. It shows you're processing it intellectually. Okay, so you're finding the homework really difficult. This engages your logical left brain.
Makes sense. What's stage 3?
Reflect feeling. This is where you start bringing in the emotional dimension, engaging the right brain. You focus on identifying and reflecting the feeling behind the words.
So not just what they said, but how they seem to feel about it.
Exactly. You sound really frustrated about that homework, or it seems like you're feeling pretty down about school.
Ah, okay. That feels deeper.
It is. And the 4th, most effective stage combines the previous 2. Rephrase content and reflect feeling.
The whole package.
Yeah. You capture both the substance and the emotion. So if I'm hearing you right, you're feeling really overwhelmed feeling because the assignments seem too hard content.
That sounds like it would actually make someone feel heard.
It really does. And what's fascinating is this process doesn't just help you understand them better.
It helps them understand themselves.
Exactly. When you reflect their thoughts and feelings back accurately, it gives them space to process, to explore their own feelings, and often to uncover the deeper issue underneath. Like in the father-son example, the real issue wasn't just school is dumb. It was about struggling with reading.
And the empathic listening helped the son figure that out himself.
Precisely.
Now, timing and sincerity seem really important here, too.
Crucial. You can't fake this. Empathic listening is most needed when emotions are high, but it has to come from a place of genuine care. No hidden agendas.
Sometimes just being there is enough.
Absolutely. Just being present, showing you care, even if you don't say much, can be incredibly powerful.
The material suggests maybe even talking about this concept with people close to you.
Yeah, asking for feedback. Am I really understanding you? It can be a great way to build that skill together.
It takes practice, though. It might feel awkward at first.
For sure. It's a skill, like any other. But the point is made, a busy doctor doesn't skip the diagnosis just because they're rushed. Understanding is too important to skip in relationships.
Like that analogy of the wind blowing the papers.
Right. It takes a moment to close the window to understand, but it prevents a much bigger mess later.
It's an investment.
A worthwhile investment in that emotional bank account. Always pays off.
Okay, so we've covered seek first to understand. What about the second part, then to be understood?
Right, because effective communication, especially when you're trying to solve problems together or reach agreements, needs both sides.
It's not just about listening forever.
No. You also need to express your own views effectively. And That, the material says, often takes courage.
And skill. It
Yeah.
mentions the Greeks: ethos, pathos, logos.
Yeah, the classic pillars of persuasion. Ethos is your personal credibility, your character, the trust people have in you.
Okay.
Pathos is the empathic side, your feel for the other person, your ability to connect with their emotions and perspective. It flows directly from having sought first to understand.
Got it.
And logos is the logic, the reasoning behind your presentation, your ideas.
And the order is critical, right?
Absolutely crucial. It's
Yeah.
ethos first, character, trust, then pathos, relationship, empathy, then logos, logic.
But we often jump straight to logos.
So often. We try to convince people with facts and figures without first building trust or showing we understand their world.
Like that example of the guy trying to advise his manager.
Yeah, he had logical points apparently, but he hadn't built the ethos or pathos. He hadn't earned the right to be heard, essentially, because he hadn't shown he understood the manager's perspective first. The advice just fell flat.
So being understood isn't just dumping your ideas out there.
Not at all.
Hmm.
It's about presenting your views clearly and logically after you've demonstrated you understand theirs. And, importantly, being open yourself to adjusting your view based on the dialogue.
This whole approach feels very internal first, like focusing on what you can control.
Exactly. It connects directly to focusing on your circle of influence rather than getting bogged down in your circle of concern.
Explain that difference again.
Your circle of concern is all the stuff out there you might worry about: problems, disagreements, other people's behavior, things you often can't directly change. Spending all your energy there is draining.
Right.
But your circle of influence is what you can do something about. And seeking first to understand, that's 100% within your control.
You can always choose to listen better.
Always. And doing that gives you accurate understanding, builds the emotional bank account, provides that psychological air. It's an inside-out approach. You work on yourself, you're listening first.
And that actually helps you impact the things you were concerned about.
That's the idea. By changing your approach, starting with understanding, you actually expand your influence. You become more effective in those areas that were previously just concerns.
And it changes you personally too, doesn't it?
Definitely. The deeper you understand others, the more appreciation and respect you tend to develop for different perspectives. It's transformative.
So practically speaking, how can listeners start putting this into practice, like today?
Just try it in your next conversation. Make a conscious choice to really try and understand the other person before you jump in with your own story or opinion.
Even if they don't open up right away.
Especially then, focus on listening for the feelings behind the words. Try reflecting that back gently. You seem kind of frustrated about that, or that sounds really important to you.
Patience is key, I guess.
And respect. People usually open up, maybe slowly, once they feel genuinely heard and not judged. Focus on their behavior, what you observe, and express your understanding carefully.
I know you mentioned trying this personally, like role-playing difficult conversations.
Yeah, it can be surprisingly helpful, even with a partner or close friend. Trying to anticipate the other view, practicing empathic responses. It uncovers blind spots. Great for learning and even for figuring out how to teach these ideas.
And in professional settings.
Same principle. One-on-one meetings where the primary goal is understanding the employee's perspective. Feedback systems designed to truly listen, not just collect data.
So the core message is always understand first, before problem solving, before evaluating, before advising, before presenting your own case.
That's the foundation for effective interdependence.
Because when you have that deep understanding,
That's when the door opens to real creative solutions, to synergy. Differences stop being roadblocks and actually become stepping stones to something better than either side could have come up with alone.
okay, so wrapping this up, the big takeaway from our deep dive seems crystal clear.
It really is that core principle. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. It sounds simple, but it's profoundly powerful.
It feels like more than just a communication technique. It's a fundamental shift in how we interact.
Totally. It has the potential to really transform relationships, both personal and professional.
So mastering this isn't just about avoiding arguments, it's about building stronger connections, communicating more effectively.
And just feeling more genuinely connected to the people in your life.
Which leaves us with maybe a final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah, maybe think about this. What's one interaction you anticipate this week where you could consciously, deliberately focus on understanding the other person before you share your own view? What might change if you did that?
Or maybe consider those emotional bank accounts in your key relationships. Where could making a bigger deposit of understanding really strengthen things? It might be worth exploring some of those steps we talked about in your own time.
Every topic's got a taste, so like, share, and subscribe now. Your next plate's coming soon.